They're in for the shock of their lives, discovering you're not the quiet little mouse they pegged you for. They thought they had you all figured out, someone who wouldn't rock the boat or challenge their authority. Dead wrong. You've been watching, calculating, and waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Now it's time to show them who really runs this show. That reserved demeanor? Just a tactical move while you studied their every weakness. The stunned looks on their faces when you finally step up and take command will be priceless. They never saw it coming, but they're about to learn exactly who the real boss in town is, and it's been you all along. They don't look at you the same. At first, it's subtle. A hesitation in their voice, a shift in their posture, a nervous glance when they think you aren't watching. But you are, and you see it. The slow unraveling, the moment realization creeps into their eyes. They dismissed you before, talked over you, ignored you like you were background noise. But something is different now. Something they can't explain, something they don't understand. They feel it before they process it. An energy shift, heavy and undeniable. They stumble over their words, second-guess their own confidence, fumble through interactions that once felt effortless. Because for the first time they don't know where they stand with you. They assumed they had you figured out, assumed you were predictable, safe, easy to overlook. But what they failed to recognize is that the quietest force in the room is often the most dangerous. You didn't change. They were just blind. Blind to the power that was always there, hidden in plain sight. Blind to the control you always had but never needed to flaunt. Blind to the fact that while they were busy underestimating you, you were simply waiting for the moment they would be forced to see you for what you are. Now they have no choice. They hesitate because they don't know the rules anymore. They seek your approval because they don't know if they still have permission to treat you like an afterthought. They feel the shift, and for the first time they realize you were never beneath them. You were beyond them. In their world, power is noise, the loudest voice, the biggest presence, the ones who demand attention, who posture and proclaim their dominance like it's something to be performed. And because you never did, they dismissed you. They mistook your silence for irrelevance, your patience for weakness, your ability to observe for a lack of presence. They wrote you off as background, a spectator, a supporting character in their self-important narratives. And for a while, you let them. Because you knew something they didn't. True power doesn't need to announce itself. You never needed the spotlight. Never needed to prove yourself in a room full of people who couldn't even see past their own egos. You let them believe what they wanted to believe, because what did it matter? Their perception was never your concern. They feel something different when you walk in. A pressure, a presence, a shift they can't quite define. It's not just that you've changed, it's that they were blind. And now, forced to actually look at you, they don't know how to reconcile what they see with what they once assumed. This is cognitive dissonance at its finest. They don't know how to process the fact that the person they ignored, the one they assumed was beneath them, is now the one who outshines them without even trying. It's not because you suddenly became more. It's because you were always this. They were just too arrogant to see it. And now it's eating them alive. Because every moment they overlooked you, dismissed you, underestimated you, you were watching. They thought they were operating in control, never realizing you were the one taking notes, gathering knowledge, stacking silent victories while they wasted time underestimating you. Now they feel it. They don't know what changed, but they know they don't hold the same confidence in your presence anymore. They don't move the same. They don't speak to you the same. And the most unsettling part for them, you didn't do anything. You didn't argue. You didn't prove yourself. You didn't beg for recognition. You just existed. And that alone was enough to shake their perception of power to its core. Let them struggle with it. Let them squirm. Because you were never a nobody. They just weren't ready to face what you really are. You let them box you in, let them define you by their limited perspective. Let them believe you were predictable, safe, someone who could be easily categorized and controlled. It was never your job to correct them. Because you knew, when the moment called for it, their illusion would shatter, and it did. The shift was instant. You saw it happen in real time. The way their expression changed, the way their posture stiffened, the way they scrambled to make sense of something that no longer fit into their carefully crafted perception of you. They were confident when they thought they had control, when they assumed you were small. That confidence has turned into uncertainty, because the version of you they created in their mind, it doesn't match the force standing in front of them. And that scares them. Not because you're loud, not because you're aggressive, but because you don't have to be. Your power isn't performative, it's undeniable. They can feel it. Every word you speak, every step you take, it carries weight now. Not because you've changed, but because they can no longer pretend you don't matter. The battlefield of perception was never about you proving yourself. It was about them realizing they were wrong. They can't unsee it. They can't unfeel it. They can't take back the moment they recognized that they never really knew you at all. They mistook silence for insignificance. They mistook patience for passivity. They mistook you for someone who could be controlled. They won't make that mistake again. They thought you were harmless. A quiet presence, a passive observer, someone they could toy with, dismiss, walk past without a second thought. They saw what they wanted to see, a mouse, small and insignificant, something beneath them. And you let them believe it, because that's how real power works. The deadliest predators don't roar before they strike. They don't announce their presence. They don't make a show of their strength. They wait. You waited. Every insult, every underestimation, every moment they let their guard down, you watched. You calculated. You saw how they moved, how they operated, how they mistook their arrogance for invincibility. They were never leading. They were walking straight into your hands. They feel it. Something is wrong. The certainty they once had is slipping. The confidence they flaunted so freely has started to crack. They sense it in the way the energy shifts when you walk in the way conversations don't flow as easily, in the way they hesitate, second-guess, scramble to reclaim control. But it's too late, because you were never the mouse, and they were never the ones in control. They were prey long before they ever realized it. Stop right there. Yes, you. This message isn't for everyone, and if you don't feel it, that's fine. Move along. But if you felt it, deep in your bones, you'll know this is for you. The ones who don't fit in, the ones who see beyond the veil, the ones who've been told to stay quiet, to settle, to conform, but never could. They aren't interested in what's ordinary. They aren't here to follow someone else's rules. They're the light in the dark, the storm that shatters illusions, the unshakable, the unstoppable, the untouchable. While the world is busy running circles, they're walking their own path, alone if they must. Not for the applause, not for the approval, but because it's who they are. Here's to the ones who take what was meant to destroy them and transform it into something divine. The ones who carry wisdom that can't be taught, only earned. If this resonates with you, then maybe it's time to find your people. The Obsidian Inner Order is the only place of its kind, the #1 ascension nexus for chosen ones, where over 400 of us gather to share wisdom, connect and transform. No masks, no games, just truth. The link is in the description. If you're ready, you'll know where to find us. If not, that's fine too. The choice is yours. It happens in a moment, a shift so small it almost seems insignificant until it isn't. Maybe it's the way you speak with certainty, without the need for approval. Maybe it's a decision you make, a move so unexpected that it forces them to stop, rethink, recalculate. Maybe it's the way you hold their gaze, unshaken, unmoved, making them feel for the first time that they might have miscalculated you. Their reaction is instinctual. Their breath catches. Their words stumble. Their posture shifts just slightly, like they've been hit with something they weren't prepared for, because they weren't. They thought they knew you, thought they had you pegged, predictable, small, someone who would stay in the role they assigned to you. They don't know who they're dealing with. The whispering starts, the side eyes, the quiet recalibrations, the subtle shifts in energy. It's not loud, not obvious, but you can feel it. They're watching you differently, not with dismissal, not with amusement, with uncertainty. And uncertainty is the first step toward fear. Because once they realize they never really understood you, they have to ask themselves, what else were they blind to? And that question, that's the beginning of their downfall. They thought they had you boxed in. In their world, control is everything. Knowing what to expect, knowing how to manipulate, knowing how to keep people in check. And to them, you were predictable. You were the quiet one, the unthreatening one, the safe, unremarkable background character in their carefully constructed story. Until you weren't. Now the panic is setting in, because they can't figure you out anymore. Every move you make disrupts the version of you they were so sure of. Every action, every word, every shift in your energy feels like a direct contradiction to the person they thought they knew. And that terrifies them. Because people like control, but what happens when they realize they never had control over you in the first place? They try to adapt, but they're too slow. They try to anticipate, but they're already behind. You move in ways they can't predict, react in ways they don't expect, and remain unshaken in situations they thought would rattle you. They used to feel superior. Now they feel small. They used to dismiss you. Now they second-guess themselves around you. They used to think you were someone they could manipulate. Now they realize you were always watching, always calculating, always waiting. You're still not showing them everything. That's what haunts them the most, the not knowing. How deep does your knowledge go? How much power are you holding back? How many steps ahead are you right now as they desperately try to adjust? They don't have answers. All they know is that the quiet one they once overlooked is now the most dangerous person in the room. You don't have to demand attention. You never did. Power isn't in the volume of your voice or the force of your words. It's in presence. And now, that presence commands everything around you. They feel it before they understand it. The same people who dismissed you, the ones who barely acknowledged you, who once made you an afterthought, they hesitate now. They second-guess themselves when speaking to you. They search for cues, watching your reaction before deciding how to proceed. Their confidence wavers. Their posture shifts, and without realizing it, they seek your approval. It's subconscious, involuntary. They adjust their behavior when you enter the room. It's in the way their tone softens, the way their laughter becomes careful, almost rehearsed, the way conversations shift in your direction, like the energy itself bends to accommodate you. You never asked for their attention, but now they can't help but give it to you. It frustrates them, confuses them. How did this happen? When did the balance of power shift? When did the person they once overlooked become the force they unconsciously submit to? They won't say it out loud, but you see it in their eyes. You run the space now, and the irony? You never even tried. At first, they laughed. They dismissed your ideas, your style, your way of moving. They whispered, they smirked, they acted like you were insignificant. They're copying you. The same people who once mocked you are now mirroring you. The ones who swore they were above you are now desperately trying to become you. And you see it. The way they start using your words, adopting your mannerisms, shifting their energy to match yours. You recognize your essence in the things they now claim as their own. They won't admit it. Because admitting it means acknowledging they misjudged you. It means facing the truth. that the very thing they once looked down on is now what they're scrambling to emulate. But they can't replicate you, because what they're trying to steal isn't just the way you talk, the way you dress, the way you carry yourself. It's the energy behind it. That can't be copied. Your essence isn't something that can be learned, mimicked, or fabricated. It's something you were born with, something that no imitation will ever come close to. So let them copy. Let them pretend they discovered what you've always known. Let them think they're catching up while you stay 10 steps ahead, untouched, unbothered, and impossible to replicate. They used to act like you didn't exist. You remember the way they overlooked you, the half-hearted nods, the forced small talk, the way they never truly acknowledged your presence unless it served them. You were invisible to them, a background presence, someone they never thought twice about. Now they can't stop looking in your direction. They linger in your space, hoping to be noticed. They laugh too loud, agree too quickly, suddenly find ways to align themselves with you. It's in the way they speak your name now, with a weight they never used before, with a subtle reverence they would have never dared to show in the past. At first you wonder, why now? Then you realize they need your validation. It's not about respect. It's not about admiration. It's about regret. Regret that they underestimated you. Regret that they dismissed you. Regret that while they were busy ignoring you, you became the force they can no longer deny. They want proximity to that power. They want to align themselves with you, hoping that standing next to you will somehow erase the fact that they once treated you as insignificant. They want to rewrite history, pretend that they always saw your potential, that they were always in your corner. But you know the truth. You don't need their recognition. You don't need their approval. You never did. Their validation means nothing when it's born from regret. And the irony? The very same people who once made you feel unseen are now the ones desperate to be seen by you. Let them want, let them wish, let them feel the weight of the realization that they were wrong, because you're not offering them a seat at your table, not now, not ever. They didn't see it coming, not because it wasn't there, but because they weren't looking. They were too caught up in their own illusions, too comfortable in their assumptions about you, too blind to notice the quiet power building beneath the surface. Now, they can't ignore it. Your success wasn't flashy. It wasn't a grand spectacle. It didn't come with loud announcements or desperate grabs for attention. It was silent, deliberate, unstoppable, the kind of power that moves through spaces unseen, reshaping everything without warning. The kind that doesn't demand recognition. It commands it. And now you see the shift. The same people who once saw you as an afterthought, they move differently now. They measure their words when they speak to you. They hesitate before making assumptions. They look to you for cues, subtly adjusting their behavior around your presence. They don't want to admit it, but you change the atmosphere, and it terrifies them, because you didn't just grow stronger. You became something beyond their comprehension. They can't define you anymore. They can't place you in a category, can't predict your next move, can't figure out how they failed to see what was always there. And that uncertainty, that realization, it's what they fear the most, because you were never meant to be one of them. You were never meant to fit into the space they tried to keep you in. You were meant to exceed it, to become something they can't control, can't diminish, can't deny. They feel it now, the shift in power, the undeniable presence that radiates from you without effort. And the ones who once dismissed you, they're the ones looking for your approval now. They thought they knew you. They thought they understood your limits, your potential, your worth. They looked at you and saw only what they wanted to see. Someone easy to control, easy to ignore, easy to discard. But reality doesn't bend to their perception, because you were never small. You were never beneath them. You were never meant to shrink into the background of their lives, waiting for their approval, their recognition, their acceptance. you never needed it. They see that now. They see it in the way they hesitate before speaking, in the way their confidence wavers in your presence, in the way their laughter carries a forced edge, their words feel carefully chosen, their movements subtly deferential. Because the truth? You were always the force they should have feared, not because you sought power, not because you craved dominance, but because you were never confined by their expectations. The mask has dropped. The illusion is shattered. They can't unsee it. They can't unfeel it. You have become undeniable. Whether they admire or resent you is irrelevant. Their emotions hold no weight. Their opinions hold no influence. Because the reality remains the same. You are in control now. And that's the part they struggle with the most. Because the power dynamic has shifted permanently. You don't seek their validation. You don't cater to their insecurities. You don't play by their rules. And because of that, you've already won. Let them react however they want. Let them talk. Let them watch. Let them spiral under the weight of their own miscalculations. But tell me, when did they realize they were wrong about you? Drop your moment of revelation in the comments. Let them know the silence was never weakness. It was power waiting to be revealed.